Alright, folks, it's the Vanguard, and this is their take. This is the Vanguard. They slamming, they're dragging Cenk. I'm surprised. Good they made a video of this. Actually, hold on there. There you go. They made a video of this. The reaction to Cenk Uyghur, TYT, and garbage homeless takes. At this point now, Cenk and Ana Kasparian, I mean every other leftist view, I'm pretty sure doesn't have this bad take, terrible take on putting homeless people in jail. I mean locking up the homeless people, making it a crime. And they could only leftists, only leftists I know. They're so-called left. They're not really left, folks. These guys are not leftists. And imagine the guys like this, Vanguard. These are kind of not bad leftists. They're shitty libs. But even these guys get it right. I mean, these guys, they're bunch of clown. These guys are a clown show, and these guys get it right. Can you imagine? A bunch of clown shows. These guys get it right, and TYT gets it wrong. Don't let these guys go on. They'll explain whatever. I might let these guys talk more than because they could explain this. I mean, terrible. TYT and Cenk Uyghur. But even in this clip, the hosts, somebody they have the guest on. The guests disagree with Cenk. I mean, you're gonna see he disagrees with Cenk. I mean, the only view that has so this kind of view is like from Fox News. I mean, but you're gonna see, folks.
Video. This was a pretty interesting debate over the recent Supreme Court decision, which basically
today
criminalized homelessness. This was absolutely wild, and Cenk here is, acting super dense about what the actual issue is. So let's take a look here, and Cenk kind of gets low-key destroyed by his co-host. So this is pretty interesting, guys.
To law enforcement. This tactic has consistently failed to reduce homelessness in the past, and it'll assuredly fail to reduce homelessness in the future. We might disagree, but Cenk, I'm curious what you make of this decision.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what to make of it because on the one hand, and I'm really curious what you guys think, because on the one hand, I think like Eighth Amendment, really, like the argument from the liberal justices is that it's cruel and unusual punishment. That's usually reserved for torture. So it's torture to say you can't sleep in the park?
Can we pause it?
I don't know that it is. Okay.
The Eighth Amendment, yeah, we can read it for Cenk. I thought he was cooking for a second. It's like watching a dude ride a bike and then they fall over. He was like, the Eighth Amendment, it protects against cruel and unusual punishment. But sleeping outside is a torture. And it's like, read that one more time. What does it protect against, Cenk? Oh, cruel and unusual punishment, Gavin. We're Americans, right, Chad? We're a slice of America, right? Working class people, fine folks. I think it's pretty cruel and unusual to throw a homeless guy in jail for being homeless. What would you say? Would you say that qualifies and constitutes as cruel and unusual? I would too.
I mean, exactly. It's like double punishment. You're punishing the person twice. I mean, this guy is such a terrible. This guy. He calls himself a progressive. That's a joke. These guys are a joke.
I mean, the implication, I guess, of this ruling is just that, like, you can be homeless as long as you don't fall asleep. So just keep wondering. Just keep wandering around all day, every day, never falling asleep. Like, how is that not a form of torture. Sleep deprivation is literally a form of torture. So I just don't understand if you're criminalizing the act of falling asleep in a public place. Like, there's not some park where you can go fall asleep if you're homeless. It's not like they have one park for homeless people and then one public park for non-homeless people, and all
Which I also
homeless people
wouldn't
are
ride
just.
with.
What was that?
I also wouldn't get down with that.
Yeah, obviously, of course not.
Put
but-
all the cores there in that park. Fuck that park.
Yeah, that would just be like District 9 or some shit. But anyway, let's keep going.
And then if the cops can't move out homeless folks from any public area, does that mean we have to cede all of our public parks to homeless people, cede all of our public areas, and that's it? The public area.
The cops can't take us out, move us off the public areas. I mean, public areas. It's called public areas. You have a right to be there. If it's a public area, not a private property. I mean, if you're doing a disturbance to the public, I mean, if you're doing like committing a crime or something, or harming other human beings, but it's a public place, you're a right to be there, right? It's a public. So it's called public.
Is there now only for homeless people? Because that's what's going to happen. So, and it's not their fault.
I don't want to be rude, but does Cenk know what the word public means? Does
Oh.
anybody, chat, you want to pull up a dictionary? Public means...
Oh my God. See these dumb, even this guy like this. I mean, what's his name? Not Gavin, the other guy. Well, he's Gavin. Yeah, Gavin. No, this guy's Gavin. What his other name now? But he even gets it. And it's so it's even the guys like this. I mean, like knuckleheads like this. Yeah, I'd call them knuckleheads. He's worse than these guys. I mean, his logic is unhinged. It's it's illogical. I mean, you have a right to the public space. You have a right to the space. So why should they? So you can't. The cops will just take you out if you walk anywhere. I mean, this could go even further than that. If you're not even walking. I mean, by that right, if you even it could be any public space. They're allowed to take you out. I mean, they arrest you. See if you're walking in you're not even loitering. Say you're loitering somewhere, and they're allowed to take you out. I mean, remove you. Unless they could, if you're sick or you're making a disturbance, they could do that. When you're not harming nobody, you're just standing there, you're panhandling, and you're allowed to take you out. They're allowed to arrest you. I mean, they're standing, doing nothing. I mean, not harming nobody. And they're allowed to just move you. Okay, get out of here. You could come here. Could take you away and arrest you. They could go further than the parks, folks. Any public space, they could just arrest you. I mean, even if you do nothing. I mean, I understand if they're acting up. If they're being violent, that's different. But if they do nothing, so the cops come there and take you away. I mean, it's like a police. See, this guy's terrible. Yeah, fuck, he's a fascist himself. He called both fascists. Just like a fascist. You're like a fascist, man. He's talking about Donald Trump's a fascist. Isn't this a fascist? Even Trump doesn't mention this. Believe it or not. You see, he talks about immigrants, but he doesn't You see him talking about this. And he's an actual fascist.
It's for who? The people. The people of America. This is a weird effort to dehumanize, to otherize homeless people. So it's like they either get to have our parks or we get to have our parks. Also, shout out to Salisa. Salisa's a real one on this exact same wavelength as me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Also, it's like no one's denying that if you show up to a public park and it's full of homeless people, like no one's denying that that's a societal issue. But the difference is that in our eyes, the societal issue is that all those people don't have homes, not that all the park goers have to observe the reality of this country, which is the massive houselessness crisis. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the fucking problem. It's not the problem. Is not the inconvenience it causes for people like Cenk and Ana Kasparian. Although that's undeniably a side effect. I mean, no one likes to be reminded of the horrific reality of the country that we live in and the failed fucking state. And the lack of a social safety net. That's not a nice thing to be reminded of, but being reminded of it isn't the issue. The issue is the fact that so many people don't have a goddamn house. And to sit here and fearmonger about, not being able to go to your public park without seeing a homeless person, instead of sitting here and, screaming on behalf of the homeless people and crying out on behalf of the people who literally don't have a fucking house. Like, that's crazy. And it absolutely is state sanctioned or state sponsored violence. Homelessness is a form of violence. It can be taken care of. The government could provide homes. They're choosing not to. And yeah, of course you're going to experience violence as a side effect of homelessness. What about when it's over 100 fucking degrees outside and you don't have any water? What about when it's negative 10 degrees and you don't have a fucking blanket? You don't think that's a form of violence?
Dehumanization. You can't go to the fucking bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet Cenk doesn't want to see people fucking homeless going to the bathroom at the fucking wherever the fuck I almost said Walmart. Cenk's not going to a fucking Walmart, this piece of shit, right?
Yeah. Anyway, let's let the hosts, educate Cenk here, because they do a pretty good job too, the co-hosts.
Oh, I'm not like a weirdo right winger who like hates homeless people. I have great sympathy for them, right? And I want to help them. And I think that some portions of the left think, just leaving them out in the street is helping them because of freedom. I don't believe that.
Some part of the left, really. Yes, I know you hate the left, Cenk, so just come out and say it. I know you guys hate the left. You hate the left because you guys are not left. you just cosplaying as a leftist. So-called left. These guys are not leftists. I mean, the left, you're right, the left wouldn't say freedom. The left would say build more houses. I mean, affordable housing. And other factors. I mean, but we wouldn't just lock up people, I guess. I mean, who in the left would, I guess, maybe the shit libs, like, I guess Cenk, who thinks locking up homeless people is okay, but for the most part, I think most of the left are based on the right side. I mean, maybe somebody like Destiny or Jubilee, I don't know, but even those guys are. I don't think those guys are advocate for locking up homeless people. Even what's his name? Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore. This shithead. Guy like that is just shithead. He doesn't have his views. So he said some of the left. I think most of the left don't have your views, buddy. You're mistaken.
Not at all.
Literally nobody has
I
ever
would
said that.
do involuntary, confinement, not confinement to like imprison them, but to help them, to get them some mental health if they.
I didn't know Matt Walsh was hosting the.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Exactly. Fox News. He definitely. No, Daily Wire. This is a take from the Daily Wire.
Insanity. This is Daily Wire talking point. He's literally just talking about rounding up and throwing in prison homeless or unhoused people, the poor. Like, it's fucking crazy. I don't even know what to add to that other than the fact that this guy's not a progressive. He's not your friend. He's literally making Tucker Carlson, Fox News kind of.
Well, the only thing I would support, and I believe that California actually
Oh, exactly.
did have this up until fairly recently, and I'd be interested in your opinion. I'm not an expert in the law or anything,
So-called,
but it
yeah.
seems like a more reasonable solution than just straight up criminalizing homelessness, which obviously is horrifically dehumanizing. What I will say I've heard has been an effective solution before is when you are arrested for a drug crime. In California, they would offer you that, like, instead of facing the jail time or the criminal punishment, you could choose to seek to go to the rehab center and be treated for drug addiction, and that actually was apparently pretty effective at helping people recover. But it wasn't like they were just rounding up homeless people for the crime of being homeless. It was like once they had committed an offense, a drug-related offense, they had an option to get treatment instead of paying the fine or doing the time or whatever. And I think that's more of a humanistic approach. But just straight up criminalizing homelessness and being like, if you fall asleep on a fucking bench, then you're going to jail. Like, that's completely ridiculous and completely fucking fascist.
Oh my god. Yeah. It's totally crazy, folks. It's nonsense. This guy is too much. He's too shit. This guy's I don't know, I can't tell you, folks. Maybe this guy's a CIA. CIA op. Cenk. Jimmy Doe might be right. He's a CIA. Maybe he's an op. Cenk could be an op.
Let's just round up and kill the poor. Everybody who doesn't have at least 150
Good idea. Yeah. Exactly, man.
racks in their bank account. I'm sorry.
These guys are pretty based on this. Even though they've got they're wrong on other stuff.
But you're being rounded up and shot. We're all gonna get it, and Cenk thinks that's for the best. What's crazy, guys? I'll tell you, every single person listening to this podcast is probably closer to being a homeless person than being in Cenk's financial situation. So let's just put that in perspective when you hear him talk about people.
Yeah,
like that.
so out of touch. So out of touch.
Yeah.
If they need the mental health treatment, if they've got an addiction issue, help them with addiction. I don't know why the two options are: we beat the living crap out of them and stuff them in dungeons, or we don't do anything and we just let them die in the streets and the public parks. So that gets to the overall issue. But in terms of this, just real question to both of you guys. Let's start with Mondale. Mondale, if the liberal justices are right here, does that mean that we can't stop homeless folks from taking over parks and that's it? All the parks are help me understand it.
I think what happens with I think the Eighth Amendment argument is the torture part is sleep is a necessity, and I think that's why she started with that. So to tell the people that are homeless.
So they going to Cenk Uyghur, so they can't go anywhere. So what about just the parks? Maybe not the parks. But on the streets? So at least the parks, they're not in anybody's way, I guess. I mean, you know what I mean? They're not in anybody's way, for the most part. So if that's good, well, so they can't go anywhere then, I guess. That's a Cenk doesn't. So if you see them, you just round them up and that's it. That's what he wants. They can't go anywhere.
Without houses that they cannot sleep is torture. And we know that using people, sleep depravity is something that people use in torture. So I get that argument. And for me, I really do think that it is torture simply because we have the capacity to end homelessness immediately. Not like 10 years from now. We can actually end it right now, just like we could with poverty if we were serious about it. So I think a government, and in this case, the city government is not trying to do anything to address homelessness because the only.
How about those money they send to the Ukraine? What about all those monies they send? I mean, with that money that could be a start, helping the homeless. Billions of dollars sent overseas. I mean, Yeah, there's one thing there.
Police shelter is ran by a Christian facility that requires you to be a Christian, basically, to attend. So that government is not trying to address the homeless problem.
And that's the other thing about the Supreme Court ruling. It was in this specific town where the city wasn't even providing city services to homeless folks. The only place they could go was a religious organization that had a measly amount of beds and that forced you to attend their bullshit, religious services or ceremonies or whatever to even be allowed in the first place. But yeah, the city was not offering them beds. It's not like these homeless people were just deciding to sleep in the streets or the parks instead of the beds they were being offered, which of course, has its own issues, and obviously those places aren't always safe or actually a good place to stay, even if you are homeless anyway. That's a whole separate conversation, but that's not even what was happening. There literally was no beds for the homeless folks in this town to sleep in, which is why the cops just started fucking arresting them. And that's what Cenk's defending here. Thankfully, this dude, I think his name's Mondale or something, was here to set the record straight. And that's basically the state of TYT these days, you guys. You'll be lucky to tune in, and you'll be lucky if it's like the one day a month they have on someone based like this to push back and actually check Cenk and Ana on their bullshit propaganda segments. Because you can better fucking believe if Ana had been the co-host here instead of these two base guys, that, it would have just been a straight up Fox News light.
Oh yeah. That's why I don't watch some. Even recently, I haven't watched the Young Turks, like as the live show itself. I mean, I think there's a lot of audience, but he mentioned something like. He mentioned another show, something about his He lost a lot of the audience. He lost a lot of the middle, not the middle. I don't know. He lost a lot of liberal. I guess the far left audience he lost. This is what he said, I think. Lost a lot of far left audience. One time, Cenk said. But I said to that, he lost a lot of a progressive audience. That might be true, but he lost a lot of his progressive audience. Doing takes like this. I mean, mainstream audience. Lots of moderators he lost. I mean, and he gained a lot of right-wingers. There's a lot of right-wingers coming to the show now. I mean, and that's what he wants. So-called moderates, really right-wingers, and probably shit liberals. The Democrats, getting a lot of them. He talks about the corporate Democrats. But I think he's gaining some Democrats. Like, he's gaining some of them are going to, they kind of go into the show, like attracting them more to the center. Who vote for, he's getting more Democrats, people who vote for the Democratic Party. See, before he was getting leftists, more like vote for the Greens, I think, his audience. Vote for the Greens or independent. They don't vote Democrat, I think. But now he's getting more people who will vote for the Democratic Party. That's what they want, anyways. It's all about the Democratic Party. Bullshit. Voting for the Democrats. That's all these guys are about. But at least back in the day, they had Bernie Sanders. He voted for the Democrats. He voted for he voted for the Democrats, but at least they had people who vote for the Green. At least, they're real progressives. But now he's attracting just liberals, or even I wouldn't say shit liberals. Well, their audience would call them shit liberals, but it's Democrats nowadays. That's my long rant. Okay.
Propaganda segment.
Which is crazy that's how far the Young Turks has fallen, that it's only the guests or the fringes of the network who are able to actually make a progressive case to their audience, and really, really depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, as I said, not only this dude but the other guy also sets the record straight.
They have. So that is cruel. And if the city had a bunch of empty beds that they were providing this homeless population, then I would say, okay, I understand what you're saying. Go to one of these bedding facilities and sleep there. But that's not an option. So you're telling these people you cannot sleep. You can be homeless as long as you're walking around or sitting up with your eyes open. And that to me is torture.
I don't know, Jordan. Like, if I'm homeless and the Christian folks are going to take me in, and they say, like, even if they said to me, "You got to say Jesus is awesome," I'd be like, "Jesus is awesome," because He's providing me a bed. So
But
I like.
that's such bullshit. Also,
You
by
tell
the way,
me,
Jake,
brother.
like,
Okay, what am I missing?
it's so easy for you to say that when you have shit, right? When you have your whole life. But for some people, for one, you shouldn't have to do that because we have freedom of religion in this country. So you shouldn't have to subject yourself to that kind of indoctrination just in order to be a free person in this society. So it goes back to, it's a constitutional issue. We have like fucking 4 rights in this country, and I'm gonna die to fucking keep them, even if I'm the only person that gives a fuck about that, right? And the idea that you would have to like fucking submit yourself to some Christian fucking evangelical organization in order to like get sleep, one of the most fundamentally necessity of existing, one of the 3 things you just cannot fucking live without. It's like air, you have to fucking have it, water, food, all that shit. Okay, so pretty ridiculous right there. But how about the fact that some people who are unhoused, it's not just like, oh, tomorrow I'll get my new job and then I'll be back and I'll be Cenk Uger's financial. No, this is a lifelong fucking problem. There's steps to build. And so what you're saying is that, oh, Cenk, don't worry. All you have to do is you debase yourself, humiliate yourself. You know, you believe in nothing as much as, like, say you're like really religious, right? And you're like super Jewish, or you're super Islamic, or you're really Baha'i, I don't know, right? Like fucking, you got your religion and it's really important to you, and all you have is that shit because you're at rock bottom. You're unhoused. You're fighting the elements every single night. You're fucking hurting. Your body's sore. You're alone. All you have is that shit. And now you're being told that in America, a supposedly free country, you have to submit to some fucking Christianity that you don't want anything to fucking do with. Otherwise, you're a criminal. Otherwise, you're going to have to torture yourself because it's illegal to sleep in public. You got to hightail it out to somewhere in the fucking woods where you can't be seen or heard from for anybody to catch a couple.
Yeah, but what if you're Muslim? Well, if you're not a Christian, you could be a Muslim. He's going to explain it. What's his name? He's going to explain it. What if you're a Muslim or you're Jewish? And you don't want to hear the Christianity. And it's freedom of religion. You have a right to freedom of religion. Right? And the government can't force you. Well, they're not part of the government. They're a charity group, so but still, it's freedom of religion.
Does that sound humane? Does that sound like a fucking country you want to be a part of? And the people who are going to be in the chat talking about, like, woo, not that we have many bad people on the chat, this is an imaginary Republican response, but it's not fucking crazy to build public housing. It has been done all throughout history. And if you look at, Gavin, you've been to Europe, I never have. Architecture is pretty beautiful there, right? Some of it's shitty. If you go the Eastern Bloc, right? The Ruskies, unfortunately, architecture is not your fort, right? Just like cooking, right? You guys make that borscht shit. I'm like, oh yeah. Fuck, never going. Hey, you had it down for a while. St. Petersburg Basilica looks nice in pictures, but I don't know if I'll ever venture over to those sticks. Anyway, a lot of public housing in Europe, right? Especially in the EU, and it looks pretty nice. I've seen pictures of it and articles about it in Jacobin. It's not something that's impossible to do. It's not impossible to make it a community good. You know what is good for the community? Having doctors, lawyers, mechanics, grocery store guys, restaurateurs, all living on the same block with a slightly different socioeconomic background. But the mixed income communities, that creates a vibrant area for people to live. You become friends with people from all different backgrounds. You look after one another. Oh yeah, my kid is out here. Oh, I'll keep an eye on him while you run to the fucking grocery store. That's community. That's what we crave in our society that we miss, right? And we've isolated ourselves so much. We've made everybody struggle so much just to put shelter over their fucking heads. And then now you're going to take them one step further, and it's like, oh yeah, you either run on this fucking hamster wheel, and if you fall off, if you get bruised up, and you don't have immediate family that can take you in and shelter you, then you're going to fucking jail.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the point of abolishing debtor's prison? I mean, this is like 150-year regression. This is bullshit.
Yeah, and just what's with this entire fucking analysis, this reactionary garbage on
You're missing
TYT that we're
that wasn't-
reacting to, at least from Cenk, right? There's no discussion of why we're here, how society got to this place, how the homelessness crisis has exploded to the extent that it has. Cenk's not advocating for rent control. He's not talking about the fact that apartments that cost $900 or $800 to rent a month before COVID now cost $1,500. How the fuck are people supposed to pay for that? Meanwhile, wages continue to stagnate. We're always told that, if we raise the minimum wage, well, it's going to cause inflation. Well, guess what? Inflation happened fucking anyway, and wages are still the goddamn same. The minimum wage hasn't gone up. People could literally work full time and still find themselves facing homelessness because you basically have to cohabitate with someone in order to afford a roommate. If you want to have an apartment that's not a total piece of shit, a mold infested piece of rundown garbage that's not close to where you actually need to be to work. So can we get at least some analysis in that regard? Like, what the fuck is the point of having a news show, let alone a progressive news show, if you're just going to sit here with your bougie-ass fucking co-host, Anna Kasparian, and bitch about how you can't go to the public park without seeing a homeless person anymore, if you're not providing some solution, if you're not actually...
I said, yeah, that's right. That's funny. Bourgeois, they are. These guys are bourgeois, and these guys are base for once. I need these guys credit the Vanguard. You guys are base for once. I mean, I didn't say once. Sometimes they're base. Or half the time they're base. Some of the times they're, I don't know.
Actually, embedding or inserting some level of progressive analysis into this conversation. I just don't get even what the point is anymore if you're just going to have these dudes explain everything to you. What is your ideology, Cenk, other than being a reactionary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
I think at this point, that is his ideology. It's the NIMBY liberalism with the, wanting to feel woke and, feel like you want what's best for society when really you just want a stable reality and what's best for you.
Yeah. Anyway, let's watch just a bit more of this, guys, before we
More
wrap.
like the status quo. That's what he wants. He says he wants this and that progressive, but he wants the status quo. Yeah. But just like he didn't go for forced to vote at that time with the rest of the progressives, he was against it. The most were for it. He just wants the status quo. I mean, he says he wants real progressive, real change, but no. I don't know.
This thing up.
Sufficient, that there weren't enough beds even at that one facility. So, to go back to your earlier point, and I think Mondale said it best, within Sotomayor's dissent, of course, sleep deprivation is a form of torture, but it's not that the torture is that they can't sleep in the park, like you framed it. I think the premise, your setup, was wrong. It's that you're punishing people who already have one of the most miserable existences in this country. And it is a purely avoidable circumstance. The remedy is not letting them sleep in the park, and it's not about freedom. Gorsuch, in his opinion, framed it that way, and I think it's totally disingenuous. No one's saying it's their freedom to sleep out there. It's that we shouldn't be punishing people. We shouldn't be doing encampment sweeps with the cops. The problem is...
Great point. This is a great point, folks. Yeah. Great point. But still, it's a public space, so they have a right. They have a right there, less like any other people. I mean, but I guess the cops could take them out, remove them from there if it's some kind of disturbance, or if there's something. But they have a public. It says public space. They have a right to those spaces. I mean,
that we're responding to a public health problem and a problem where social services are needed with policing. And you see this in
Yeah.
cities who just across the board funnel billions of dollars, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars into their police departments, say, okay, go fix every problem. Well, LA is doing it slightly different now, and I don't think this is the best example. I have a better example, but Karen Bass wanted to put more money into addressing the homelessness problem in this country, in this city. Just this week, we saw a report in the Los Angeles Times. Homelessness went down by 10.4% since last.
But you know what? He's gonna say that the program, 10%. That's what he said last year, and but they cut off the clip, but I seen it. But she ended the program, actually. She ended the program, and then she had more. She had more to the police budget, believe it or not. Instead of doing this, she actually ended the program. And was working for a while. I mean,
last year, with an increased investment in addressing that in the city of Los Angeles. It was just in the Times 2 days ago. In Denver, 800 people who were experiencing homelessness were given universal basic income. By the 10-month mark, 45% of people who were in that program, in that study, found permanent housing, and the city saved $589,000 that would have been spent by the city to treat people, to put them in jail, to provide ambulances if they had a medical emergency, need to go to the hospital. It is more cost effective to take care of people, even just to give them a universal basic income so they can get their own housing.
And that's a point I love too, because there's obviously all these myths about homeless people and how if you give them money or give them help, they're just gonna, further destroy their own lives. They're gonna go out and buy a bunch of drugs or just go to the liquor store and spend their whole check there, whatever. The reality is most homeless people don't actually want to be homeless, but
What?
they're in a situation where they feel like they would have to dig themselves so far out of a hole that it's basically impossible. So they resign themselves to misery. Right? Because they're so in debt, or their situation has just become so fucked that they can't even imagine climbing up out of that pit. Like I said, which is hard to imagine for some people to be in that place, but it's easier to get there than you might think. So yeah, if you just literally, for the most part, give people the ability to get themselves back on their feet, they'll take the opportunity and they'll be fucking damn grateful for it. Obviously, of course, there will be a percentage of people who are either too addicted or too mentally incapacitated, and that might need an intervention of another variety. I'm not a fucking public health expert or a policy person necessarily, but I think it's beautiful that experiment showed with the UBI that a significant portion of homeless people, if even just given money, will do the responsible things. They want to get back on their feet. They want to have a healthy life. They want safety, security. They don't want to be a fucking public menace. Of course not. This is obvious.
It just also goes to show that we're not doing the best we can to solve this or alleviate this problem. If we actually had concerns about solving this problem, it's kind of like the crisis in the Middle East. What we're concerned about is how do we keep the status quo going and functioning the way we want, and how do we keep these people out of our fucking eyesight, line of vision, excuse me, right? I want them not in my backyard. Oh, I don't hate homeless people. I want them to be treated in the jail, Oh, I know, yeah. Sorry, don't go to jail, right? Should work hard.
oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyways, folks, I'm gonna end this. But these guys break it down perfectly. I mean, break it down better than I would. I was gonna do a separate video, like myself, breaking this down, but they do this for me, kind of. And it's so bad, so ridiculous. These guys are so-called TYT, so-called leftists. I mean, there's food left. See, only leftists there is John Alderota, and what's the name? Dr. Richie. I mean, that's the only leftists there. The 22 shows are there, and JR is good. JR is good, and but that's about it. And it's so phony, baloney. These guys are not leftists, man. Definitely terrible. Anyways, folks, I'm out.